To Russia, where the conflict between Israel and Iran has forced President Vladimir Putin to walk a diplomatic tightrope. The Russian leader is maintaining a delicate balancing act, trying to navigate Russia's warm relations with Israel and its security agreement with Iran. Putin has spoken to the leaders of both sides, offering to help de-escalate the conflict.
This was Russia's president back in January, joined by his Iranian counterpart to sign a new strategic partnership between Moscow and Tehran. A deal that included provisions for both countries to counter shared threats, but crucially, no military alliance. And so far, in the wake of Israel's devastating attack on Iran and the escalating conflict since, Russia has been keeping its powder dry, choosing to condemn Israel's offensive at the UN and elsewhere over offering military assistance to Iran.
This completely unprovoked attack, no matter what Israel says to the contrary, is a gross violation of the UN Charter and international law. One is left with the impression that Israel's leadership is convinced that they have a completely free hand in the region.
Given its support for Russia's war in Ukraine, Iran might have been hoping for more than harsh words from Moscow. With Iranian-designed drones playing a key role in Russia's aerial attacks on Ukrainian cities. But in Moscow, observers are pointing out that the focus on Israel and Iran could distract global attention from the war in Ukraine, playing into Russia's hands. And after Israeli strikes on Iranian refineries, analysts are also highlighting recent spikes in oil prices as a win for Russia, giving a short-term boost to its ailing economy, while destroying the hopes of Ukraine and its allies for a drop in Russian oil revenues. Then there's Moscow's long-standing ties with Israel, dating back to the creation of the modern Israeli state. President Putin has maintained warm relations with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who frequently travelled to Russia before the war in Ukraine. Putin has repeatedly demonstrated Russia's readiness to take Israel's interests into account. Now those ties with both Israel and Iran may pay off, placing Russia in the position of a potential power broker, while offering the opportunity to further extend its influence across the region.
I asked DW Russia analyst Konstantin Eggert to describe the Kremlin's position in this conflict.
Well, lots of words, not a lot of deeds. That's how you describe it briefly. It's very clear that Netanyahu, or for that matter, the Iranians, can't be bothered with whatever the Russian representative in the UN says, because that impacts nothing. It's clear that Russia is not going to interfere in this standoff between Tehran and Israel. At best, what they could do, they would probably agree to hide some people, probably some equipment on the Russian territory to prevent it being destroyed, or these people being destroyed in Israeli attacks. But I don't think it's going to be anything more. And by the way, Ben, I do not believe that Russia will ever be a mediator in between Israel and Iran, because essentially the Israelis won't trust the Russians, and the Iranians now probably very soon will see the Russians as traitors.
But Konstantin, do you see any effects or consequences for Russia's campaign in Ukraine?
Short term, it is a spike in the oil prices, which means more money for the military-industrial complex. But at the same time, one has to remember, for example, Iranian air defenses were completely created by the Russians, and we see what happened to them. I think that not only the West, but the Ukrainians will learn about it and try and find weak spots in Russian defenses in the very near future. I do not think that that the Israeli campaign against Iran, which it was so far, let's say, successful, basically portends anything good for Russia in the long term, especially for the Russian military-industrial complex, which was significantly behind Iranian rearmament, and it showed itself to be completely impotent.
And bigger picture, what's it all mean for Russia's global ambitions?
Again, nothing good, Ben, because in the Middle East, since the fall of the Assad regime, and essentially the cessation of existence of major base for Russian-Iranian cooperation in the Middle East, supporting the Assad regime was one. Russia has been relegated to a second-tier power in the Middle East, and now it's probably third-tier power. Everyone sees that alliance with Russia means nothing. It didn't save Iran at all. I think it will also have repercussions beyond the region, beyond the Middle East, globally, as you rightly said, because lots of people in the global south that looked up to Russia to counter Western influences, to be a kind of the main anti-American country in the world, will now have their doubts about Russia's potence in this respect and Russia's sincerity. In the end, Russian leadership is all about saving itself and saving the regime. And I think that this particular conclusion will not be lost on the global south.
You heard it from our Russia analyst, Konstantin Egger. Thank you for your time.